My name is Moses Kimani. Lots of people will call me Kim. I am a married guy, love my wife, and got 2 kids. I happen to serve right now as the Africa coordinator for a mission called United Adoration, which focuses on helping churches to write their songs and to sing them back to God in worship. I also am privileged to serve on the AFLEWO Governing Council as well.
Hi, my name is Njeri. I am married to a wonderful man, blessed with 2 children. I am also a worship leader with music on YouTube, many other places as well. And I do run a small but I think impactful ministry on Instagram known as Brave Christian Babes.
My name is Desmond Tutu. I'm a lawyer and a policy analyst, and also a lecturer of law. Currently, I'm looking at the policy between business and environment and how we can develop a more sustainable future for the next generation and to make this earth a better place. My first encounter with AFLEWO was back in 2009. I just came to the city, and so I joined AIC Milimani. And in the first meeting of our practice, one of our choristers and worship leaders asked me, "Do you want to go to a particular event?" She was then at Daystar. And then she's called Masi Daudi. I remember her very well. Then I accompanied her to the event. And I was amazed. I didn't know that event was AFLEWO. I didn't know the name or the structure. And that was my first encounter. But when I walked into that room, I didn't want to leave because of what was happening in the room. We didn't even get to the best spots, because by the time that we were arriving in the venue, it was all full and packed. And so we had to squeeze in, but wherever it was, and that night I remember it was cold, very cold, because we didn't get to be inside. But the worship, wherever we were, it was as if we were right at the spots that we needed to be. And this, for me, was my first journey in the flow. And after that, I said, this is where I want to be each and every year. And this is what I want to experience every day. Quickly, I signed up. On that very night, I had to ask, hey, so who are you? What do you do? They said, we do this every year and annually. And I said, what happens? How can I be part of this? And that night, I think I signed up. By the time I was leaving, I had to nudge my friend. And luckily, she had some acquaintance with one of the worship leaders that night. I think this was Reverend Tom then. And then so that's how I was introduced. And after then, I joined. And it's been a wonderful journey since then. 2010, I was in the choir. 2011, yes, all those years. I think it was only in 2018 when I was out of the country that I didn't get an opportunity to join, but I've had an amazing experience being a choir member.
I got to know about AFLEWO while I was in Daystar. So I know there's a connection between AFLEWO and Sing Africa, which is a ministry that was born from the school environment that is Daystar. And so when I got to know about it, I wanted to sign up because my heart has always been towards worship and just communicating my love for God through music. And so I got the opportunity to serve at the very first AFLEWO as a choir member. What was interesting though, I don't think people remember this, but I actually was in the choir and I actually slept. Not because it was boring. I don't know what happened. I think there was such, we got to a place and I remember the Odongos were ministering. And it got to a place, and I think that year in my life, there was so much going on. Literally, I felt, the need to rest. Like God just allowed me to rest. So I had such a chill moment right in the middle of all that, which is crazy because a lot of people may think, gosh, you're not concentrating or something. But for me, it was can't explain it, but it was such a divine space where God just allowed me to rest. And that was so powerful because I know what it means to be a worship leader and not get people to respond by lifting up their hands. But God does move in different ways. And for me, that was just like God just ministering rest to me, just chill for a moment there. And then I got so rejuvenated when it was time to sing again. I was ready. So that was my funny start into AFLEWO. But I've had more and more encounters. 2009 that he's talking about, 2012, 2013, many years after that, although not concurrently, but every opportunity I've had, whether it's to be in the choir, to be a BGV, or to lead a song, or even just to be a part of the resource mobilization team, or actually sit in the audience, I've done all of that. And whichever spot I found myself in, I know God is at AFLEWO.
I first heard of AFLEWO as it was being formed in 2004. I was a worship pastor at that time, serving at one of our churches in Nairobi. And there was a partnership between the church I served with and another leading church in Nairobi. And so I had paid their worship pastor a visit. We were getting to find out about each other, getting to figure out ways in which our churches can partner, the two departments can partner. And he asked me about my story. And as I was sharing what my heart's desire was, and at that time I kept saying, if only the Lord would allow me just one chance to fill a stadium with people worshiping. And he said, you know what, it's interesting you'd say that, because there's a group of guys who have just approached me. They've shared something about something they're calling Africa Let's Worship, AFLEWO, and they are in the process right now of registering people to form a choir that would do exactly that. I was sold. Right then, I was sold. So I went back to my church, shared the vision, gathered as many people as I could to join the choir. And so 2004, that's how it started. I still think that the most memorable moment for me was perhaps the very first one. This was something that had never been done before. Since then, we've been pretty much trying to do the same thing and improve on it in different ways. But that very first one, that was a history maker right there. And it stuck to me the entire time. I had the privilege of being able to set up a chaplaincy department for AFLEWO from scratch. And the role for that department would be to provide the spiritual leadership and spiritual nurture for the teams. A lesson I took away from there at that time was, it hit me just how so needy, maybe needy is not the word, how so in need our people are. Those who serve in our churches, a lot of the people who serve at AFLEWO on the choir are also worship ministers in their churches or serve in some capacity, and they come here to be fed. That for me was a biggie. I never imagined it until I stepped in there and realized the people who serve also want somewhere where they can just be a part of others like them and be fed in that capacity. So that was the one that was a biggie. I think the other one was the opportunity I had to help to start the Mombasa chapter. When we got to where Nairobi had matured enough to start other chapters, Mombasa was the second chapter that we started. Right after Nairobi, and I had the opportunity to mentor the leadership team there to where they were able to have their first indigenous event, and that's memorable for me.
One has got to be the time when I got the opportunity to serve and lead a song with Ngeshu. So that, first of all, it was a cute song. I know I am Njeri, and that is my tribe, but I am so born in Nairobi. My dialect is off, like terribly off. But it was such an interesting space where I got to be in, to learn to pronounce those words correctly and to deliver it the way it's supposed to be delivered in front of many people who would easily tell if you're singing the wrong thing.
Right.
Yeah, and then just, for me, that was an interesting component to it. The other bit was, I think I had focused so much on, getting the lyrics, making sure we deliver well. And I come from a band background where there was a lot of emphasis on performance and things like those. But that 1 year, one of the things, and I want to tap into what he said, what Kimani said, the chaplaincy made so much sense for me that year, because Reverend Tom caught Ngesho and I at the parking lot, having practiced everything, and we had crammed and we knew this song and was ready to go. Then minutes before our flow began, the lyrics, all of them had disappeared. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. And I was there asking Ngesho, how does that song start again? As in, we had gone blank and we were trying to remember, and Kesh was doing a better job than I was. And then Pastor Tom came and prayed with us, and the lyrics flooded back in. And it was so interesting to even watch the videos on YouTube and see how powerful God allowed us to deliver that song. So you kind of think, okay, so as a musician, you may place a lot of, weight on the performance, on the delivery, on all these things. But really, it's God who moves in the songs. And all of that is good, but to actually know that all of that takes a backseat and you have to let God do his thing, that was powerful. And I'm happy that there's a moment, someone recorded from the audience and they're able to upload it. Thanks to whoever that is. So that is a constant reminder to me to this day that all of that preparation is awesome. But you know what? It is the God of the music that must take front and center.
Right.
Yeah. Someone told me that they saw that was part of the songs they're going to do that year, because I wasn't participating that year. And it was crazy because when you write a song, you don't think that it could have that kind of, you can only hope. And then I really have such a high regard for AFLEWO, and for them to have picked on that song, I really appreciated that, because I didn't have to pay any money. I didn't have to tell anyone, buskuma hii wimbo uone kama ita make the cut, as in, and that's the beauty. Even as, like you say, as a worship leader, as a music artist, I get to see how God can make things move, and you don't have to do a thing. As in, all I did was obey, write the song, and go into studio and release the song. Then God took it from there. One of the things that I got to see after it was sung at AFLEWO, many other churches started picking it up. And that's just a testament to the fact that the choirs we pick every year are basically worship leaders in many other churches around the country.
Right.
So they take the songs with them to their churches, and that's so powerful. Even just it's a seed that's planted in these people who then carry it. And so many, many churches sing it today, and not just in Kenya. I get messages from Zambia, from TZ, from different other countries, and they've picked it up simply because of what happened that night. And the best part is, I didn't sing it. I am so excited. In fact, for me, I appreciated the fact that they didn't call me to tell me, come sing this song. I love that, because I don't have to sing that song. I sang it once, I don't have to sing that song every time. Let someone else do it and allow God to move through them and do great things. So that is exciting for me.
So my most memorable AFLEWO years are 2010 and 2014. And it's not just one, because they're significant because they're joined, their stories are joined. So in 2010, I tell my pastor then, Reverend Matthews Malwa, and I tell him, hey, Revo, I've joined this group, AFLEWO, and I'll be. Then he's like, okay. And all of a sudden, he decided to give me a lot of room to do different things, because I was directing music, and then at AIC Milimani. So he began to tell me, take it easy, you can get to go for practices. And I'm like, this is weird. This doesn't happen at all. You have to come and you have to ensure everything's done. But then he was chilled out. He just kept on telling me, hey, how is AFLEWO? And I didn't know. So on the night of the 2010 of the worship, so we were there excited, and then he walks to me, and I'm like, Reverend, what are you doing here? Then before I could, I could get an answer from him, I realized that the mood had changed. The way everyone was interacting with him was different. And I suddenly became an outsider. I was like, hey, what's up? Then I realized that he was one of the patrons of AFLEWO. Of course, it hit me later. That was weird. I told him that, after the worship night. Then he told me, just sit down. And he took me through, the journey. And that was amazing. And it was a confirmation that I was at the right place and at the right time, and everything was aligned. But fast forward to 2014. So 2010, after the AFLEWO night, that is when I got my admission to study law after 4 years out of school. Guys had gone ahead of me, and so that was my first launch into AFLEWO, and it was my first time getting into my career of law. In 2014 was the year that I was actually graduating. And it was significant because every night of AFLEWO, it's always amazing, because night of worship, it's so overwhelming that I tell God, out of this, I don't know what will happen, but I'm just here to worship. But every night, on the morning of AFLEWO, this is so weird. I get either a phone call or an email telling me that, hey, this is what you've got, or this is where you should go, or this has come to you and we need you here. Be it a job, be it, very interesting things that happen in my life that I know that for the purposes of this, this forum, it might not really be significant. But I want to mention what exactly happened on that 2014. After the worship night, so we were supposed to graduate in December. AFLEWO happens a few months, a few weeks to, So after that, I was not so sure where I was going to graduate because I didn't have the funds. I had not cleared my fees. And I intended to actually apply for my master's at the same time. And I was looking for a job. There was no prospectus of all these three happening. But then on the night, I told God, during the communion, I was praying, and I remember, I just told God that night, for me, whatever happens, all this, I think I've already been through the journey. So on the night of AFLEWO, we're just, you're still sleepy, and we are grabbing our phones, and then my phone goes on, and instantly in the morning when we're still just walking home, I receive a phone call from the dean, and she tells me, "Hey, Desmond."